Hi guys, welcome to Geek Coding Academy. Today we'll see advanced OOPS concept, final keyword. So in our previous videos, we saw about what is abstraction, what is interfaces in depth, and what are nested and anonymous classes, what I mean by static keyword. So today we'll see on what is final keyword. So guys, what do you mean by final? So in Java actually, a final is a very versatile modifier. Okay, versatile modifier that can be applied on variables, methods, and classes. So it imposes certain restriction on these elements, like making them immutable or preventing further modification. Okay. So final can be applied on these three elements, like final can be applied on variables, methods, and classes. Okay. Final in short term, we can say it as a constant. So once we declared it, its value can't be changed. If in case of variables, in case of methods, if you apply method as a final, then the child class, suppose if that method present in a parent class, then the child class can't able to override that method. Means overriding is also something changing of a logic, right? So we can't able to change the logic which is already defined in parent class. And if I made a class as a final, then no other classes can extend that class, or no that class doesn't have any child class. So child class can't able to append to that class. So overall we can say is final means like making like a constant. So once declared, that's a final. So no need of, there is no room to change its value or its logic. Okay, we'll see how it will be. Like we'll see one by one. First, we'll see like what happened if final is applied with for variables. So final with variables, there are three type of variables we already know. So one is local variables. That means the variable defined inside a method. That will be method scope variables, also called as in a local variables. And instance variables. Instance variables is nothing but like class variables. Those variables will get memory when object got created. That we already saw. And third type of variable is a static variable. Static variables are also class variable, but that gets memory like when the class is loaded to memory. Like when the class is loaded, at the time the static variables gets memory, and it is irrespective of object creation. Okay, all these three types of variables we can able to append, we can able to add a suffix as a final. Okay, so the key point we have to remember for final is a final variable. If you declared a variable as a final, there will be only one chance to initialize. Okay, only one time it can be initialized, and it is just like a constant, and its value cannot be changed once assigned. Okay, suppose in the case of a suppose in the case of class variable, if you declare that class variable or instance variable as a final, and we have not initialized it, means that will be treated as a blank final variable, and it has to be initialized through constructor. So constructor are used to initialize the class variables or instance variables. So if you make a final in a final for an instance variable, then you have to initialize it with the help of a constructor. Okay, let's see its example. So you will get a complete idea. This first we'll see the what do you mean by final local variable. The local variable means like it is within a method. It is declared, and it is variable is declared within a method called a local variables. Um, if it is appended with a final keyword, then it is called as a final local variable. Okay. So here I have declared a x variable name as x, which is of type integer, and I made it as in a final, and using an equals. Okay, using an equal, I just assignment operator. This is equals. I'm just assigning in a value here, 10. So 10 will go into the x space. Like x variable will hold off this 10 value. And because of this variable is a final variable, that's it. There is no room to change its value. It's just like a constant. So in the second line, I'm just want to change that x value to 20. I'll get a compilation error. We can't assign a value to a final variable x because it's already been assigned at the time of declaration. Okay, let's see what happened if you assign uh, final keyword for an instance variables. Okay, I have a class called my class where I declared two variables y and z, which is both are of type integer, and I made both of them as a final. So first type is final int y equal to 30. So at the time of declaration, I'm just initializing its value with 30. Okay. The second variable is Z. I made it as a final, but I have not initialized here. You can see here. These we called as a blank final variable. So this blank final variable has to be initialized through constructor. So my class is a constructor. So constructor, we know constructor is used to initialize a class variables or instance variables. So I have to initialize this value here. Z is equal to some value. So it is initialized in the constructor and it has been locked. There is no room to change its value again. Okay. So once assigned, the value cannot be changed. Let's see what happened for a static variables. Suppose like in a class, we have a some variables, we made it as a static, right? Because we want to make that as under a class level instead of object level. So we'll make that as a static because static will get a separate memory and irrespective of object creation and only one copy will be there. It will be served across all the objects that we saw in our previous video. So here, usually we create a static variable. If we want to make that static as a final variable, we create like this, like static final int of max value. Always we write it in an uppercase letter because this will be circulated over all the other classes or it will be used for all the other objects. So usually the constant we declare like this, like public means it will be accessible everywhere, either in through the same package or through the different package everywhere. And static means it will be like without creating an object, we can able to access this. And we are made it as a final because we want to make this max value as a constant, which is of type integer, and we are making 100. We are initializing it with a 100. So when a static variable is declared as final, it becomes a constant. Typically, we write in an uppercase that for standards, and it is assigned only once and shared among all the objects of the classes. So whatever object we create for different classes, it will be shared only one copy. Okay. These are all about making a variables as a final. Let's see the next methods. If what happened if we make a methods as a final. Okay. I have created a one class called here parent class, and I have one method here display method which is not returning anything. So I make it as a void, and I'm making it as a final. So I'm making a display method as final. I have a body here. So I already told if I make any method as a final, that's it. It can't be overridden. That means the child class can't able to override that method. Means can't able to change the logic of that method. It can only use the same logic what returned in the parent class, or else that's it. So I have one child class which is extending this parent class, and I have commented here some of the code. Like if I uncomment this, I will get a compile time error. What I have commented is, see here, I have overriding. I'm trying to overriding this display method and try to write one more logic. Like suppose like here I'm trying to write a cannot override a final method. Something sums is out. I'll get a compile time error. Okay. Why? Because whatever method I'm trying to override, my parent class method, which I'm trying to override, it's made it, my parent has made it as a final. So there is no child, like a child can't override. Okay, when a method is declared as final, it can't be override by the subclasses or child classes. Why we need to do this is useful when we want to, as a programmer, when we want to prevent any of the subclasses from altering the method's behavior or method logic. So we don't want to alter the method logic or behavior through its child classes. We can make that as a final. So this is useful in securing certain behaviors that should remain consistent across all classes that inherited from the superclass. Okay. So we'll see the next final with classes. So I have one immutable class name, which is of type class, and I made the class as final. So when I do a class as final, there is no question of inheritance concept. Like none of the other classes can able to extend this class because the class is final. And usually these type of classes we call as an utility classes. That they can be directly they have to be used irrespective of, like we cannot able to extend it. Okay, a class that is declared as final can't be extended. That means like no other classes can become a subclass to it. Okay, so making a class as final is often used to prevent inheritance. We don't want to extend this class, so we need to prevent the inheritance as well, where it doesn't make sense to extend the class further. We don't want to extend the class further, so we'll make it as a non-inheritable. So this is useful when creating any utility classes are the classes that is not designed for inheritance. So for example, such class is a string, which is present in java.lang.string. A string class in Java is a final class. So we can't extend the string class. Okay, we'll see next. Common use cases. So what is the use cases for the final keyword? Immutability. So the final keyword is often used to create immutable classes. So suppose like where object can't be modified after creation. For example, string class in Java is immutable because of this final keyword. Means once Java object gets created, we cannot able to change its object. Okay, so I'll talk about that more in more advanced concept. When I come to collection, I'll talk about that, like why string is a immutable by default and how to convert back into a mutable when we require, and all we'll talk about that. And also constant. We want to create some constants which can be used throughout all our program. We can go with a static and final keywords. I already shown you. Like usually the constant we return in an uppercase that will be used throughout the program. And preventing overriding for some methods are used in frameworks and APIs where the developer where we developers want to ensure that the behavior of certain method should not change in any subclasses. So we'll make that method as a final. So none of the subclasses can able to override that method. Okay. And it will be helpful for some design patterns. Suppose like final is frequently used in singleton or and immutable design patterns where only one object has to be created and that should not be tampered or should not be modified. Or like we are following an immutable design patterns, we can go with the final keyword that will be used. So what are design patterns and all will be covering in our future videos. So we'll see next. What is the limitation? So we know the limitation, like final variables must be assigned exactly once. There is no question of assigning it second time. Once you assign, that's it, it will be done. And final classes can't be extended because final class, there will be no child class. There will be no concept of inheritance. Then it cannot be extended, which might limit flexibility in certain designs. Okay. And it's important to carefully design when to use final, especially with methods because method and classes because it restrict future flexibility. Suppose if I made a class as a final today, so tomorrow we want to extend something, like I can't able to do it, like because so we need to, as a developer, we need to think thoroughly before making any class or method as final. Okay, so let's see. So let's code. These are all about theory, guys. Now let's back to our practical mode. Um, I'll open my IntelliJ IDE. So guys, I created a class called final keyword demo. Okay, I created one class called final class, which is a class name as final class, which is of type class, and I made it as a final. Means this class can't be extended. So inside this class, I created one variable, instance variable, which is of type int, and I made this in a final. And also one more variable I created static var, which is of type static, and also it is a final. And I created one method, the final class. Sorry, this is a constructor. Constructor should have the same name of class. Constructor method should have the same name as a class name. So final class is the constructor. Where why I use constructor is for this instance variable I only declared this is a blank final variable. I need to initialize this. So through constructor we have to initialize. I'm using constructor here to initialize that instance variable. And I have one more method, show final method, which is not returning anything, and it's of type final. I'm just printing out value here, and I'm just having a normal method where I'm showing both, where I'm printing both instance variable and static variables. Okay, let's come to the main class. Main class is defined by using this public. Means main class is always public. Only one class is should be public in a program, and we have one main method which should be like public and static. So here I just want to create that final class object which I created. While creation, I pass this 50 because if you want to, like if you pass something at the time of creation, it will be called this parameterized constructor where this value will be fitted to the instance variable, and that will be locked because only one time we can able to initialize the final variable. Okay. So after that, using this a reference variable, I'm just invoking the display values this display values method, and I'm just also calling the show final method. This final method, I can only call, but I can't override this. Okay. So let's see, like I have uncommented some of the, sorry, I have commented some of the lines. Why I commented? Let's see, if I uncomment it, suppose see here, final object at the time of creation of an object, I've initialized it with 50. Now I'm trying to add 200 to it, like change it to 200. I'm getting a error here. Cannot assign a value to a final variable instance. Okay, this is one of the error because I already told final variables once declared can't be assigned. Once declared, that's it. We cannot able to assign two times or second time. And also the static variable, it's already been final. Even static variables also we can't able to assign. Okay, let's run the program. We'll see. Yeah, as you can see, in instance variable 50, which we initialized one time, and static variable is 100. And this is the final method inside a final class. Final method we called. So if I want to extend this final class, I'm getting a compile time error. And if I want to override this final method, I'm getting an error because final method can't be overridden, and final class there is no concept of inheritance only. Like we can't able to extend. So these are about final keyword and the uses of final keyword and when to use, at what requirement you have to use. That will be completely dependent on the programmer or the architect who is designing the entire application. So in our future videos, you will be more like I will be teaching more on the design pattern. So you will come to know like how to design an application, how to understand the complete flow. So thank you guys for watching. This is all about today's session. So in my next video, I'll talk about more advanced concepts. If you like my video, please share this video to your friends and colleagues, and please subscribe to my channel. And please turn on the bell notification so that whenever I upload a new video, you will get an instant message to your instant message. You will get an instant notification to your mobile. So till then, keep watching, keep learning. Thank you. Bye.